spent a lot of time in California the last couple of years. And just so you know, it is a lot more conservative than what people think. And mamas are on fire, and every time I speak at one of these events, I'm just even more infused with hope. And because I know that every one of you knows at least 10 people who feel the same way you do. So, and just as a side note, I'm pretty sure that Donald Trump won California. So I'm going to start this out with making a statement, and if I forget to tell you why I said this at the beginning, you're all just going to raise your hand and go, what was that about? Okay. You will never win the Super Bowl playing defense only. Okay? That's it. All right, so I'm tired of being on defense all the time, and I am ready to go on offense. Okay, all right, we'll do that. Okay, so the war on moms. There is a conference that happens every year at the United Nations that you probably do not even know exists. And that conference is called the Council on the Status of Women. And there are women from countries all over the world who come to the United Nations, but the large majority of them come from countries like in Europe, the United States, Australia, and Canada, because we have the means to send more women. And a lot of these countries, they can only afford to send one. And so every year when they hold this conference, the idea, the objective, is to come out of the conference with a document of agreed conclusions. It's not law, but they consider it soft law. Because what happens is when that leaves the UN, it goes back to all the countries, and that's what they look at when they're making policies, because obviously we care about women, right? This is what women want. Well, the only problem with this is the United Nations Council on the Status of Women puts all of the events, the discussions that have anything to do with family or freedom or actually supporting women at the worst times of day, in the worst locations, and people don't get to go see them. And when it's something that they want to make sure it gets passed, they divide it by like 5 different rooms. So these countries that only can have one woman come can't be in every room with the discussion. It's a whole setup. So they've tried to get rid of Mother's Day. They've done all kinds of nefarious things. But in 2017, I have friends that have been going to this council. And they have one for children too. And they've been going to this council for the last 20 years. And they've been making a lot of relationships with these women in these other countries, African countries, Indonesia, all these different countries. And so when this happened, they were ready. So this was the objective. In 2017, it was to redefine motherhood as unpaid work that needs to be recognized, reduced, and redistributed. Well, all of those moms who were there, who were from those countries where they could only send one mom, united together with all of my friends from the United States, Canada, and Australia, who were 4 moms, and they were able to have representatives in every one of those rooms, and they crushed them. So it did not pass. Their agreed conclusions did not come out, but it's very interesting because the same year, Melinda Gates, you guys all know who Melinda Gates is, they have this, before she was divorced, they have a foundation, and every year they send out this report. And this was out of her statement in the letter that year. It is obvious that many women would spend more time doing paid work, starting businesses, or otherwise contributing to the economic well-being of societies around the world, and the fact that they can't holds their families and communities back. Now, this isn't about whether or not you work outside the home or own a business or have a college degree. This is about where is your priorities, and you cannot put a number or under any circumstances list what we do as a paycheck. You cannot devalue us that way, because what we get is way better than a corner office or some great monument to our names. What we want, none of those things are going to keep us warm in our sunset years. What we want is to be surrounded with family who love us. What we want to know is that we're going to be cared for because we cared for them. It's connections. That's what brings us together. But when you have someone who's trying to take over a whole entire country, connections is an enemy. So why are they trying to erase women? Why are they so hell-bent on making moms disappear? They devalue us, they discredit us, they discourage us, they tell us that everything we do doesn't matter, it's a waste of time. You can have children any old time. Live your career, go and do anything else. Don't have children, that's just a burden. They're telling us all of those things. Why? Because they know just how powerful our influence is. They know this is who we are. They know that we have the power to stop everything that they have coming at us. They have very successfully removed or demasculated men from society. They've taken the fathers from the home. And now they are stepping up their game big time because they cannot have mothers who have an influence in their children's lives. So, it's very interesting because the women's movement, and I love that she posted this on her Twitter, because people don't know that International Women's Day, and we've all bought into it. Okay, we're going to go where people are and bring them where we need them to be. But she just like, I'm not going where they are. I'm just going to call it right out. This is a communist takeover. That's exactly what it was. When the feminist movement started, it was the women's movement to lift the culture, not drag it down. One of the early great women who was involved in this movement, her name was Frances Willard. She actually has a statue in Statuary Hall in the Capitol. And they were starting this motherhood movement. No longer would women work in weakness and seclusion and loneliness and isolation. It wasn't about no longer you're going to be a mom, no longer you're going to be working home. It was about let's unite together and support each other. That's what it was. Mothering was to be the central idea of this new movement for home and humanity. It was met with an enthusiastic and spontaneous reaction among women. And she said, when the mother learns the divine secrets of her power, then shall the blessed prophecy of the world's peace come true. Mother love works magic for humanity, but organized mother love works miracles. Mother-hearted women are called to be the saviors of the race. That is why they're erasing women. That is why they're erasing mothers. Another woman who was a part of that, one of the original women's movement heroines, champions, was Frances Cobb. She was very concerned about what was happening with the movement, and she said, I have striven to warn my hearers against that adoption of looser and more bohemian manners, and worst of all, that fatal laxity of judgment regarding grave moral transgressions, which have appeared of late years among us as the inevitable extravagance of reaction from earlier strictness. She's like, okay, we're not going to go from this side of the pendulum to this side of the pendulum. These faults and mistakes constitute, I conceive, deadly perils to the whole movement for the advancement of women. And with all my strength, I would implore every woman who sympathizes with the movement to set her face like flint against them. It is our task to make society more pure, more free from vice than it has ever been before. If women were to become less conscientious, less unselfish, less temperate, less chaste, then I should say, for heaven's sakes, let us stay where we are. Nothing we gain would be worth such a loss. These are the women who were warning when this Bohemian movement was coming in, and the Bohemian movement was the Marxist movement, infiltrating something that they thought was an easy in because they realized early on the influence of women in the culture. We set the bar. Our culture, our society, humanity will only rise as high as that bar that we set. The radical feminists have dragged that down being supported by Marxists. And now the crazy thing is that those women in the 60s who burned their bras and fought for equal rights and equal pay, we got it, yay, let's celebrate. No, now they're erasing women. Now they're saying that men are women and men can have babies. And I'm sorry, there is nothing that's going to come out of that little hole that's going to be anything other than something that goes in a toilet. All right. So reality is something that we don't live in anymore. So I tell moms all the time, you want to turn this around, you start by reading your children Hans Christian Andersen's The Emperor's New Clothes 3 and 4 times a week, so that they will recognize when the emperor's naked and have the courage to stand up and say so. And we have got to have their back. We as moms, as grandmas, every single woman that has children within your influence, we have to champion them. When my children came home, I said, if there's ever anything that makes you feel dark, ugly, confused, or just not right, come and tell me and we'll fight it together, because I am on your side. We are on the same team. I am your advocate, and they need to hear that 10 times a day, because the whole entire world is telling them I am their enemy, and I am not going to be their enemy. And sometimes that's going to be really difficult, because we have to love them through the chaos and the confusion. And sometimes we just want to smack them upside the head and say, hello, McFly. Stick with the love, it works better. All right, so I tried it, it doesn't work. All right, so where is all of this coming from? They want our children. You saw that slide. We stand in the way of every fiery dart, darkness, and evil coming our way. So, how are we going to stop this? Well, the first thing we need to know is who is our enemy. Children are the living messages we send to a time we will not see. I love this quote. What message are we sending? There are 3 despots, the most heinous, horrible despots of our time. And there's a quote by one of them. It's Hitler, Stalin, and Mao. There's a quote by one of them, Hitler, that if you evoke this quote, if you reference this quote, if you even hint towards this quote, they come after you like behemoth vultures. And it's not because it's Hitler. They'll say that. They quoted Hitler. It's not that. It's because what they quoted was truth. And if you speak truth, and if you talk about what has already happened, then you will recognize that those same things are happening in our country right now. We are living in Hitler's Germany, Stalin's Russia, and Mao's China. And you don't have to take my word for it. I'll just tell you history itself. These are 2 quotes from these men, and Mao, he used the children. They all used the children. So I'm going to start with Hitler. Education came under heavy control in Nazi Germany. Adolf Hitler believed the youth of Germany could be totally indoctrinated to support the Volk, which was a nation made up of the most superior of human races. This mass brainwashing was to be achieved in 2 ways: the transformation of school curriculum and the creation of bodies like the Hitler Youth. The Reich Ministry of Education, Culture, and Science took control of the education system in 1934, and while it didn't change the structure it inherited, it did major surgery on the staff. Jews were sacked en masse, and by 1938, Jewish children were barred from the schools. Teachers with rival political views were sidelined, and women were encouraged to start producing children rather than teach them. Just have them, give them to the state, we'll take it from there. Of those who remained, anyone who didn't seem dedicated enough to the Nazi cause was retrained in Nazi ideas. This process was aided by the creation of the National Socialist Teachers League, which affiliation basically was required in order to retain a job, as evidenced by a 97% membership rate in 1937, and then grades, of course, suffered. Once the teaching staff was organized, so was what they taught. There were 2 main thrusts of the new teaching: to prepare the population to better fight and breed. Physical education was given much more time in schools. To better prepare children to support the state, Nazi ideology was given to them in the form of an exaggerated history and literature, outright lies in science and German language and culture to form the Volk. Hitler's Mein Kampf was heavily studied, and children gave Nazi salutes to their teachers as a show of allegiance. By 1939, membership was compulsory for all children of the right age, and the Hitler Youth is one of the most evocative Nazi organizations visibly, effectively representing a regime that wanted to remake the whole of German society into a brutal, quasi-medieval world, and it was willing to start by brainwashing children. So there's a belief that when they say a saying that one day the children walked into school and the cross was on the wall, and the next day they walked in and there was a swastika. I don't know if that's true literally, but figuratively, culturally, it absolutely is true, because it turned over overnight. There's this gentleman, Hillman von Kamp. I highly recommend this book for those of us who still read. Defeating the Totalitarian Lie. He was a Hitler Youth, and he talks about how Hitler did it. And one of the things he says is that the children were encouraged to tell on their parents, and then their parents would disappear in the night. And all the fun things of Hitler Youth and the schools, they were always on Sunday. So they were pulling them away from the family. They were pulling them away from the church. So there's a book, a gentleman named Oliver DeMille. He wrote a book called Thomas Jefferson Education, and he has several other renditions for families, for teens. And so TJ Ed for Teens, this comes out of that book. And he is talking about Alan Bloom. And he said, as Alan Bloom pointed out in his classic bestseller, The Closing of the American Mind, the last society to be as highly trained and as poorly educated as the current U.S. was Germany in the 1930s. A significant number of German engineers were highly enough trained to build cutting-edge weaponry, submarines, missiles, airplanes, and so on, but not well read enough in history to vote against Hitler or refuse to do his bidding. Same with German scientists who understood chemicals and genetics enough to experiment on their own bodies, on their own neighbors, but then they were thrown morally into prison camps and they had not learned enough in ethics, morals, history, psychology, or basic politics to not elect Hitler or refuse to torture their own countrymen. Critics could say that by the time submarines were being launched and people were being tortured, it was too late to do anything. But only the combination of top technical training and poor leadership education could have allowed all this to happen. A less highly trained people could not have done it, and a truly educated people would not have done it. This may seem extreme to some, but seriously, what is education all about? If it is not to teach us what is good, ideal, and right, then it is really not education at all. Theodore Roosevelt said, to educate a person in mind, but not in the morals, is to educate a menace to society. So right now, everybody's talking about education. How we need to educate our children, when it's indoctrinate our children. And we as mothers have an influence that gets in their way. They still come home. We're still reading to them. We're still there at the crossroads of their lives, and we need to be at a greater crossroads. So I'm going to go on to Russia, Soviet Union. There is a powerful quote that a society, a culture, a people are going to be connected with stories. And the stories that we love and believe in are going to be what determines the society, not battles that were won and lost. That'll be the rise and fall of a culture, is the story. Well, communists have been very actively engaged in changing our story for a very long time. From the time that the Constitution was signed, it started. And the story of freedom is an epic tale. America is an incredible journey, but they have made everything, just like in Isaiah says, everything good, bad, everything bad, good. So the reason we're losing so many battles is because we've been fighting principle with policy. And we need to fight principle with principle, because when we do, freedom wins and socialism and communism loses. So we need to get back to the story. What makes America great? Why are we so unique? What is the story? Even telling, our children and grandchildren their birth story, your stories, connecting. That is how we stand against this. There's a man who wrote a book called None Dare Call It Conspiracy. I think he was a professor, I can't remember, but he was in a college setting, and he kept hearing all of these people talk about the communists are coming, the communists are coming. And he was so tired of hearing about it, he decided he was going to go on this research project to prove the kooks wrong. And after 9 months of extensive research, he proved the kooks right. And he wrote a book called None Dare Call It Conspiracy. He names names. And it's very interesting because there were 5 men who were part of this. 1913 was a very bad year for America. We got compulsory education, the 16th and 17th Amendments in the Federal Reserve. They own the schools, they own the money, they took the states' rights away, and now they own us. But they don't, because we still have threads of the Constitution that are holding them at bay, and we need to tie those threads together to chain them down as they're supposed to be. But the interesting thing is, of these 5 men, of course, one was a Rockefeller, and they were all involved in all of these big 4 things. But one of them, his name was Jacob Schiff. Now, I can't be for sure guarantee you that he and Adam Schiff are related. But they spell the name the same way, and I know how this communist thing works. They pass it down like a legacy of destruction for generations. So I'm pretty sure Adam Schiff is his grandson. Okay. In the beginning of the book, None Dare Call It Conspiracy, he says the objective of every conspiracy is to convince everyone else there is no conspiracy. So when you guys are calling out, when I'm calling out stuff that's happening, they have to make you crazy. They have to call you an insurrectionist. How many of you saw, I'm not talking about the most recent crazy, insane speech that Biden gave, the one on January 5th. Did you see this January 5th insurrection speech? You got to see it. You've got to see it. He laid down the gauntlet. And it's not him. We know that. It's the whole cabal behind him who shoves him out and takes off his pajamas and puts on a suit and shoves him out in front of everybody. They write the speeches. They put it up on the teleprompter. They tell him which way to turn, what to say, and when to use the bathroom. So some other time I'll tell you who I'm pretty sure is running the country. But no, it's not Obama. He's sitting in his pajamas on a couch playing video games, and they call him out when they need to, too. I'll just tell you, it's Michelle Obama, Hillary Clinton, and their complicit antagonist who should be in jail for elder abuse, Jill Biden. So but there's a whole cabal of people who have been doing this for a long time, and we don't ever see them. They're not elected. They're not on the front stage. They're all behind the back room. They're the people behind the curtain, and all you see is the wizard. This is where we're at. Okay, so because this has been going on for a long time, they are really good at where they are right now. So when he gave his insurrection speech, he was sure. I'm just laying it out right now. I'm going to tell you, you're all going to suffer. If you're MAGA, you are going down. You're patriots. You're book banners. Dude, call us what we are. We're moms. And we're not banning books. We're yanking sex out of our children's classrooms. But he can't say the word mom. He's got to call us everything else. He can't call us freedom fighters. He can't. Okay, so I want to make it very clear right now that we need to stop using their language. If we're going to take this war back, if we're going to make sure that motherhood is back where it should be and we're the influences that we are supposed to be and standing next to our men and lifting up our boys, then we have to stop using their language. It's really easy to say MAGA, like it's this terrible, horrible thing, tying into J6 and insurrectionists and all these horrible things that don't even exist. But it's a lot harder to say, make America great again. Stop saying MAGA. I know it's cute. I know it's easy. We need to say the words, make America great a freaking again. Okay. Then I was at an event last year, and it was mainly young girls and their mothers. And I was talking about what was happening in the schools, in the classroom, and where it was coming from. And it's such a radical ideology from the gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer crowd. And one of the moms raises her hand and she said, "What is that?" And I said, "Have you heard of LGBTQ?" "Oh, yeah, well, that's what that is." Her daughter's like, "That's what that stands for?" Write it down on a cue card and practice it. I know it's hard. It's a lot of letters that mean nothing. But they mean something. And they need to hear it. Gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer. Say it. Lesbian, gay, I said it wrong. I already said it wrong. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer. Plus, and then like, what's plus? Pedophiles and bestiality. What? Right. You just won the argument, ladies. All right, and gentlemen. Okay, this is an important video that you need to see. Can we turn it up a little bit?
It may surprise you to learn that I was host to Mr. Khrushchev for a half day when he visited the United States as a state visitor. But according to President Eisenhower, Khrushchev had expressed a desire to learn something of American agriculture. And after seeing Russian agriculture, I can understand why. As we talked face to face, he indicated that my grandchildren would live under communism. After assuring him that I expected to do all in my power to assure that his and all other grandchildren will live under freedom, he arrogantly declared in substance, "You Americans are so gullible. No, you won't accept communism outright. But we'll keep feeding you small doses of socialism until you finally wake up and find you already have communism. We won't have to fight you. We'll so weaken your economy until you fall like overripe fruit into our hands."
Now I'm going to move on to Mao. They were all three pretty awful, but Mao was the worst. So I'm just going to give you the Reader's Digest version because I'm sure she's going to talk about it. Mao was one of the original revolutionaries who fought to overthrow the emperor and that whole entire, what they felt horrible, which, you know, was very not a cool way to run a society. But anyway, they came in to change everything. And he was one of the original revolutionaries, and he started to lose power because the other revolutionaries thought he was just a little bit of whack job and he was going over the edge. And he didn't like that. And so, Reader's Digest version, he came up with a plan. He wrote a little red book. He shut down the schools, and he put his wife in charge of purging the country of everything that had anything to do with Western influence. He convinced the children that they had to be the new blood. Everything needed to be new. All of those other things were old. They all read this red book. He started the Red Guard. And when you think of the Red Guard, you think of these men in these uniforms and fully armed. They were children. And those children put signs around those original revolutionaries who'd become older at this time. Signs that said they were traitors because they weren't communist enough, beat them on sticks, cut their hair, humiliated them in every way they possibly could. They went around the country on a rampage, burning everything old, tearing down statues, burning records, burning buildings, and all heralding the Red Book and the cause of communism. So today, I don't know, does any of this look familiar? This is happening today. The Bolshevik Revolution is happening right in our country, right underneath our noses. And what's happening is the underbelly of this evil that has been seething underneath, passing this on like a legacy of destruction, being very patient, has now suddenly come out, like in Lord of the Rings, where all the icky people come out and they're like, we're here. They've always been there. But now they're right in our faces and they're telling you everything they're going to do. And we need to stop rolling our eyes at them when they say that, because they mean it. When Hillary Clinton was saying in the last election, under no circumstances, no matter what, Biden, are you to concede the election? Under no circumstances are you to concede that election. And all the conservative media was like, could you believe she said that? Oh my gosh, that, you know what, she can't do that. And I'm like, okay, y'all need to listen to what she just said, because she just told you what they're going to do. Listen to what they are saying. I'm going to tell you some of the things that our children are being exposed to, because this is what this is all about. Taking our children's hearts and minds. Have you guys seen this? If you have not, your children and your grandchildren have. About 15 years ago, this started to be distributed in schools across the country. And this isn't just happening in public schools. This is private schools, parochial schools. You really need to know who has influence over your children's lives. So this is all about, this. Literally, this person called metrosexual came up with this. I mean, we're like, I'm sorry, we're calling this a classical way to teach children about gender identity, and the guy who wrote it is called metrosexual. Okay, whatever. This is how they're confusing our children. They've been doing this for over a decade now, and about 4 or 5 years ago, they decided that they needed to change it to the gender, where is it at? Oh man, I don't have the gender unicorn. They have a gender unicorn now because they felt that the genderbread person was too masculine. So a few years ago, I was at my brother's house, and his wife is a teacher, my sister-in-law, and she's been teaching for 30 years. And the last 10 years or so, she's been in the library at the school. So she hasn't been in the classroom and been affected like a lot of the teachers have who are constantly coming to us and saying, I cannot even handle what's going on in my school. But they're afraid to say anything because they'll lose their jobs. I mean, I was here in Los Angeles last year where they publicly humiliated a teacher and fired him right there at the school board meeting because he wouldn't accept the pronoun thing. I mean, it's insane what's going on. So I'm sitting there and I'm talking to my brother and sister-in-law, and I don't remember how the conversation came up, but I said, well, have you heard of the genderbread person? And they're like, no. My niece, who was in college going for her teaching degree, said, oh yeah, I've heard of it. She went to her room and came back with this, her notebook. They are teaching the teachers this before they ever even get out of school. Luckily, my niece is one of those awesome teachers who did whatever they said, passed the test, and then went out and said, now I'm doing it my way. And she's an awesome teacher in Oklahoma. Okay, you guys, she was in a college in Oklahoma. She's teaching in a school in Oklahoma, and a bunch of the teachers in that school are teaching this garbage. This is not just happening in California. Thank you for starting it here and perfecting it, but it's everywhere. Everywhere where there's a teachers union, this is happening, and every school district in America has a teachers union, and I'll get to that in a minute. Okay, I know when they were talking about we don't do CRT, there's no CRT. This is from 2018, what year was this? 2021, sorry, 2021, does it have the date on there? 2021, we have teachers, whistleblowers all over the country who send us these things and tell us what's going on. And they gave us, this is the magazine that NEA puts out every month. This is the October issue. And every single one, it was like a 5-page spread of all of these teachers who were talking about how they introduce CRT into every single subject, from art to PE to science, every single subject. There is no opt-out, you guys. There's no opt-out anymore. And I loved Alaska because a few years back, they did an opt-in. You want my kids to take this? Great. You convinced me that I need to do it, and I'll opt them in to your stupid class. So now what's happening is we're kind of doing an opt-in where you can now go to the legislature and create these laws, and it's happening right here even in California, where they now have to alert the parents when these things are being introduced. So it's not really an opt-in, but it's at least a parental notification, which is nice, especially when, they're trying to tell you that your child is not what they are. And that's the goal. They want to take away our identity, everything that gives us purpose and passion. The foundation, you're a child of God. You're a part of a family that loves you. You're citizens of the greatest country on the planet. They're taking all of that away so that they can destroy all of those things that made America the freest, most prosperous nation on earth. Okay. We cannot win the Super Bowl with defense only. So this is our offense. And forgive me because I thought I had 10 minutes left. I started the clock, but I'm going to go really fast. Cottage meetings. I did not learn the Constitution in school. I learned it when my mother walked into the principal's office after I was told that I couldn't read the Bible in school, and when I argued, was sent to the principal's office for insubordination. She came in, told the principal my daughter has every right to read her Bible in school. This was 2000, no, this was, when was this? 1983, okay? This is a while ago. This has been going on for a long time. So I go into the principal's office. He is trying to explain to me about the rules, and I can't do this. I'm like, I just want to talk to my mom. My parents had one car. My dad always had it. We lived 15 minutes away from the school. To this day, I have no idea how my mother made it in less than 15 minutes, but she did. And she sat down with that principal, asked what the issue was. He explained to her, and she goes, no, sir, my daughter has every right to read her Bible in school. She's not interrupting class. She's not disrupting anything. And he said, well, ma'am, we have this policy. And she, excuse me, sir. She pulls something out of her purse, sets it on the table, and points to something and says, right there, sir, that guarantees my daughter her right to read that Bible. And he said, yes, ma'am, you're right. As long as she's not disrupting class, it's totally fine. She can read her Bible. I walked out of the principal's office that day, and I looked at my mom, absolutely stunned and in awe, and I said, Mom, what was that you put on the principal's desk? And she said, that was the United States Constitution, baby. And I said, where do I get one? So I have been a fan of the Constitution ever since. The cottage meetings are like Tupperware for Liberty. You bring your friends and neighbors into your home, and you learn the true story of America, the principles of liberty, the Constitution, in a way that you've never done before. It instantly resonates with you. It's relatable. And life-changing is what we hear most. I had a mom in Florida who reached out to me last year, and she said, oh my gosh, Kimberly, I love what I'm learning in the cottage meetings. It's life-changing. I was talking to my state representative the other day on a constitutional principle, and he asked if I could slow down because he wanted to take notes. So this is what these moms are learning. It's freaking awesome. So in this was so profound. You wouldn't think it was profound. It's amazing the way God works. He's like, yeah, you probably needed to put this together. Something might be coming. And you're like, okay, whatever. So we wrote the Declaration of Mothers in 2017. It's 9 paragraphs of awesome, pretty common sense. But now it's like, oh my gosh, that's revolutionary. As mothers and primary makers, creators of the homes of America and molders of the future of our nation, because mothers are the center of the home, and home is the center of society, we declare that the liberty and freedom of all people begin in the home, and that a nation is but a magnified home. The values and virtues taught within the family will determine the values and virtues of the nation as a whole. That's common sense to us, right? Well, this is what the other side, the people trying to destroy our country, have known for a really long time, which is why they're trying to tear the family apart. I love this one. We recognize, this is the first and second paragraph, we recognize the sacred role of mothers as the heart of the home, and home is the heart of society. That the liberty of each individual begins in the home, and parents are first and foremost the primary teachers and protectors of their children in a free society. Properly constructed social, religious, and governmental institutions are designed to support and strengthen the family unit, not replace it or regulate it. No association or government organization can replace the family, no matter how well-intentioned or well-designed it may be. Now, I just have to say, Joe Biden can't say the name. People don't know what a woman is. They can call us chest feeders and birthing people all they want. Because in 2018, the Declaration of Mothers was introduced in the congressional record, and you can't take that away. The other thing that we offer as a support and a counter to this is knowledge, information, empowerment on what's happening in our culture. We teach you the principles of liberty, we help you see what America is supposed to look like, and then we give you all the resources on how to be effective. Know what your children are exposed to. We have these booklets in English and Spanish: Gender Confusion, Social Emotional Learning, Critical Race Theory, Parental Rights Guide. This is a mom in Arizona. In January, we held an event at a very important election area where it's highly Hispanic. 150 moms and their children and husbands came. And it was just about 175, 200 people who were there total. It was amazing. We had a bouncy house, we had food, because bouncy houses save the culture, you know, they bring us together. And this mom, these books were flying off the little booklets, like 12 pages, flying off, I think this one's 16, flying off the table. This mom sitting there reading it, she and 3 other moms came up to our state director and said, if this is what the Democrat Party stands for, if this is what the government is trying to push on our kids, whatever party it's coming from, because it's coming from both, she said, I will never vote Democrat again, and I'm going to tell all my friends that. So I want you to know that there's something really important that needs to be a takeaway from this. Notice that I'm wearing my bling. I love red, white, and blue. I have so many stars in my house, my kids are constantly having a competition to figure out how many there actually are. My front room looks like an explosion of 1776. I'm pretty sure I own stock in eBay for all of the 1776 memorabilia that I've purchased. The 1976, when we did that thing where we loved America. And my ringtone is Only in America. But when I go out and I reach out into the community, I set it aside. I don't come with a MAGA hat, a Trump anything, flag, or red, white, and blue. Our color is purple, shades of purple. I'm going to tell you why. When you look up purple, lavender is a color that symbolizes devotion and love and purity and connections, everything that's good, right? Purple is the color of royalty, and we're all daughters of God. And it is red, white, and blue blended together. It is the color that unites us and that represents the best in us. When we go out as a mother, a sister, a neighbor, a friend. And then we just tell them what's going on. We ask them questions. Did you know this was happening in our school? And we have an army of moms overnight that are on our side. These issues are winning issues when we go out and we talk to people. We can turn the culture around, but we're going to have to do it by infiltrating the culture, not by winning elections, because what good is an election if everybody who's voting hates America? We have to bring the story of America back. Okay, last couple of things. Empower Moms. On our website, we have an Empower Moms Resource Center, and it is from school choice to school boards. If you want to pull your kids out, we teach you how to do it safely and effectively. And legally, and all kinds of great resources and how you can do it. It's not just, it's not what you think it is. I mean, there's pods, there's so many things I don't have time to talk about, but it's all here. If you want to keep your kids in, we teach you how to protect them. We wouldn't send our kids out on a cold winter day without a coat, a hat, and gloves. Why are we sending them out into the cold, dark, evil world with no light and no armor? We need to be meeting with them, talking to them, having a relationship with them so that we're at least as much an influence in their lives as the world is. These are just some of the things that we have on there. If you want to run for school board, if you want to serve on the school board, we are literally changing hearts and minds at all levels of the culture at Moms for America. We are, Kansas City, a newspaper, did an interview and posted an article about what's happening in the schools, and they interviewed the head of the teachers union in Kansas, and she said, "We fear Moms for America because they're moving people in the wrong direction." And this is why. So this is what you need to know, okay? What it is that we're up against. Lobbying associations. The National School Board Association that labeled us domestic terrorists has a state affiliate in every single state. And their whole goal is to train school board members to be good little head nodders. Don't disagree. If you disagree, do it behind closed doors. When you come out front, you always have to agree. If everyone votes yes, you have to vote yes, even if you don't agree with them. Don't go into the schools because it makes them nervous. The superintendent, you need to listen to him, and the law director, you hired them. They know what they're doing. Trust them, and there's never enough money. That's what they teach them. And then be cheerleaders for all the cool, fun little stuff and ignore all those other things that parents are talking about because they just don't understand. Parents just don't understand. They tell them this all the time. And so you get these great people into these positions and you think, what happened 2 months later when they're just like everybody else? Because it's drip, 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 drip constantly, and nobody wants to be the bad guy. So it's also the Principals Association, the State School Board Association. There's just so many associations, and they're run by the unions. We need to take their money away. How they are doing this is with your money. School district dollars are paying for these associations. Do a FOIA request, public records request in your school. Find out how much of that money is going to these associations that are lobbying against you, the teachers, and the students, and get their money taken away. We go to the store every year to get tissues and pencils and crayons so they can teach our kids. How about we take this lobbying money and we put it back in the classroom? Teachers unions, there are 2 associations. Most teachers do not know that you do not have to be a part of a union. We won that battle. But they feel like they have to because of all of the things that are coming against them. The unions don't do what they think they do. But there are 2 really great national associations, Association of American Educators and Christian Educators Association. These are 2 great organizations that teachers can join and be a part of the counterculture. And have the support that they need. We are currently in the process of training moms and dads to be school district ambassadors in every one of the 13,452 school districts in the country so that they know what they need to know to be a counter in the counter revolution. Moms for America groups popping up all over the country. If you have your own group, like you guys would be like one of our affiliates. You're already meeting, you're already together. Be a part of the network. You don't have to wear the Moms for America brand to be part of the network, and be connected, and we will drive people to you because we know you're here, and we can support each other. The FCC standard bill is another tool. If you can't show it on TV and you can't air it on the radio, you can't have it in the classroom. And that has passed in Texas, in 2 other states. It's in now being in 12 states, including California. It's in the legislature. And we're also a media platform for you. So connect with us, be a part of the network. Don't feel like we're losing, because the exciting thing is we're actually winning. More and more people are trying to gather to groups like this and be a part of something to push back against everything that's coming against us. And there are way more of us than there are of them. So keep up the good fight.